Hello everyone. It's time to learn more about hoardable money and unhoardable money and money with demorage. Free economy, an economic order based on competition and private enterprise, but eliminating the social injustice of unearned income. The alternative to capitalism and socialism, by Dr. Theophil, Christen, translated by Philip Pye, published by Free Economy Publishing Company, 309 Madison Street, San Antonio, Texas. In this fair land, none shall starve without fault, and none shall lose sleep from anxiety for daily bread. Unless all freeze and all starve, none shall freeze and none shall starve. This is the basis of national unity, the dictate of humanity, the concept of democracy, the spirit of Americanism, and the challenge of Christianity. Silvio Gesell. Preface. The social life of our generation is dominated by the great struggle between socialism and capitalism. Capitalism has the support of most men insofar as it means private possession, individualism, and freedom from bureaucratic control. But capitalism also, unfortunately, means haphazard accumulation of inflated fortunes side by side with extreme poverty. It means dangerous social unrest, corrupt government, and above all, war. War growing more cruel and terrible from year to year. Regarded as a courageous attempt on a large scale to improve the social order in which we live, to realize social justice, to help the oppressed against the oppressor, socialism is attractive. But the concrete socialistic proposals, communism or nationalization of production, are repugnant to common sense. They entail still more bureaucracy and corruption and further strengthening of the already too powerful modern state. The founder of socialism, Karl Marx, was bemused with the nebulous theories of the philosopher Hegel. No economist himself, and writing at a time when German economics had become notorious for pedantic obscurity, it is not surprising that Marx went astray theoretically and proposed, for the misery and injustice he observed around him, an utterly erroneous practical remedy such as communism. What is really surprising is the vitality of this error. Its growth and adoption by millions of the world's workers is striking evidence of widespread social discontent, of the strength of the workers' opposition to capitalism in its present form. Rather than tolerate the abuse and dangers of capitalism, the workers are willing to adopt a desperate and indeed absurd remedy such as communism. From the great contemporary struggle between socialism and capitalism, many of us have stood aside. We were unable to defend capitalism in its present form, and although sympathizing with some of the aims of socialism, we were not prepared to give up the relative independence and the technological efficiency of the present individualistic order. The main cause of social discontent and international friction is undoubtedly unearned income. There can be no peace within or between nations as long as 40% or more of the annual production of every country is deducted from the earnings of the workers in the widest sense, including intellectual workers and working employers, and transformed in the shape of rent, dividends, and interest into the unearned income of a small, privileged class. There can be no peace within or between nations as long as 40% or more of the annual production of every country is deducted from the earnings of the workers and transformed in the shape of rent, dividends, and interest into the unearned income of a small privileged class. To put an end to this abuse, Marxian socialists are prepared to break up our whole individualistic system and to substitute for it communism. It remained for the late Silvio Gesell, 1862 to 1930, to throw a flood of new light on the problem of unearned income and to point out another and unexpected practical solution. Gesell shows that unearned income is not an essential part of our present individualistic system, but rather an accidental defect of that system, a defect which by an appropriate reform of our monetary system and system of land tenure can be eliminated without sacrificing private initiative and private possession. Gesell's reform, called free economy, an economic order free from bureaucracy and from the injustice of unearned income, is attracting growing attention all over the world. Free economy is a proposal to remedy the defects and abuses of our present social order by peaceful organic development instead of by violence. It offers a scientific method of attaining lasting peace in the disastrous struggle between socialism and capitalism. In its appeal to sturdy independence and individualism, it is well adopted to American and English character. The standard work on free economy is The Natural Economic Order by Silvio Gesell. The present little work by a well-known Swiss economist, the late Dr. Christen, first appeared in Germany in 1919 and is one of the best existing introductions to free economy. It has been translated in the confident hope of arousing interest in free economy and of obtaining collaborators for the fruitful work of making it known in English-speaking countries. For free economy only needs to be known in order to be adopted. Free economy only needs to be known in order to be adopted, and its adoption means a brighter future for mankind. The translator, Philip Pye. Introduction. If the author believed with the majority of his contemporaries that there are only two possible economic systems, capitalism and socialism, the present pages would never have been written. In the author's opinion, the socialists are right in condemning exploitation of the workers by the capitalistic class, because such exploitation is unjust and economically inexpedient. But he is also convinced that to carry out the socialists' program would be an economic mistake with disastrous consequences. State ownership of the means of production and state control of industry might be adopted as a necessary evil if this were the only way to put an end to capitalistic exploitation of the workers, but the disadvantages hardly need restating. State ownership means inefficiency, favoritism, and corruption, the disappearance of liberty and independence, the triumph of soul-destroying bureaucracy. Anyone with inside knowledge of the working of a state-owned enterprise in any country can furnish only too abundant evidence of the evils of state ownership. Because some insects are harmful, a farmer does not wage war upon the whole insect world, including the honeybees that fertilize his fruit trees. But the Marxists reject all surplus value without distinguishing how much of it is rent or interest on capital, and how much honest reward for the work of the employer or merchant. They do not see that the work of the employer is usually of high social value, since it provides new opportunities for the work of the wage earners. By confusing capitalists with employers, socialism made the fatal error of estrangling the two economic classes which are naturally the closest allies, the workmen and their employers, with the result that both overlook their common enemy, the receiver of unearned income. Nobody can blame the worker for being no wiser than his leaders and for sharing their illusion that employers reduce wages to live in luxury. In reality, if the employer reduces wages, he acts not for himself, but under pressure from the capitalists, for whom he is a kind of bank messenger or whipping boy. The workman punishes the employers for the economic injustice he has suffered, instead of the real culprits, namely the landlords and moneylenders. This fact should be clearly understood, that unless an employer is working on his own land with his own money, a large part of the product of his work and the work of his employees must be set aside for the landlord and money lender. This fact should be clearly understood, that unless an employer is working on his own land with his own money, a large part of the production of his work and the work of his employees must be set aside for the landlord and moneylender. The employer does not retain what he takes from the workman, yet he bears the odium of the unjust exploitation. It is inconceivable that employers up to the present have not understood this. Probably they and many workmen have hoped in time to enter the small caste that lives by unearned income. For this reason they approve of unearned income at a time when they suffer by it. This tragic illusion cannot be dissipated until the economic connection is better understood by those whom it affects. Clear thinking is needed to end the present deplorable economic conditions. But capitalists are in a fool's paradise if they think that the present system of exploitation can be indefinitely prolonged. The capitalistic system is doomed when the workers understand that it depends on interest, and that with an efficient organization of economic life, there is automatically a slow, regular, and permanent fall in the rate of interest. Simultaneously, the other factor in unjust exploitation, private ownership of land, must be eliminated in return for social peace. We know today that these things can be achieved by a simple economic reform, by peaceful organic development, without an economic coup d'etat, without expropriation of the expropriators. The economic reform in question is called free economy. Free economy is an economic system which preserves the desirable features of the present order, namely the use of loan money by employers, free competition, private enterprise, and freedom from state control, yet eliminates the economic injustice of unearned income, that is, interest on money and rent on land. With free economy, the state only intervenes in economic life in order to eliminate privileges and unfair advantages which prevent true competition. With free economy, the state only intervenes in economic life in order to eliminate privileges and unfair advantages which prevent true competition. We propose to show that such an economic system can be realized by means of a scientifically correct monetary reform and a corresponding change in land tenure. We also propose to show that the new economic system automatically adjusts international relations, causing at once the general adoption of free trade. Its freedom and justice will be the surest guarantee of civil and international peace. To be continued.